Which is best, the EP-133 or the SP-404sx? It's a somewhat easy answer, and to be honest, I never thought I'd get asked this question, but it's popped up a few times now in the comments, so hey, let's talk about it. Today, we'll answer which machine is best for who, their key differences, and finally, the most important thing to me, which is their sample management hierarchy, which really changes the way you end up using either machine. All right, so let's answer the question the easy way. What's your goal? Because these are two completely different machines with maybe a 20% crossover rate. If you're looking to do resampling, get that classic but arguably overused SP-404 beat repeat effect, or need a crazy good effects processor that you can mangle up your samples and manipulate them into new sounds before sending them off to something else, the SP-404sx might be for you. Now, on the other hand, if you want a way more immediate, make a full track on one device, easy to access step sequencer, velocity sensitive pads, MIDI sequencer for external gear, built-in speaker, which honestly kind of blows, but it's fun at times, then the EP-133 might be for you. And a lot of what I'm saying here towards the SP-404sx goes towards the SP-404 Mark II as well, since they are very similar in their workflows. I'm just picking the SX because of its price point in the used market. And if you're looking for a good deal on used gear, I'd highly suggest checking out Perfect Circuit's new used page. They're bringing it back, baby. And not only can you buy used gear, you can also trade your gear in and get up to 15% more for in-store credit. I got a link to it down below, so go see if you can find a good deal. Now, I would not advise the SP as a first device, I want to make tracks device. It's too cumbersome and clunky of a workflow compared to the modern gear that we're used to today. It has its place, but it's not for the speedy. It's mainly for the nuance and the methodical producer who enjoys the process and the practice of really digging in to a sound. The EP-133, on the other hand, is a very familiar feeling device. It follows the footsteps of almost all other groove boxes in that it has an easy to use step sequencer. You press record, play some things in, it plays them back in a simple and easy to edit loop. And yes, I know you can do this on the SP, but my God, is it complicated. It feels like an afterthought. This alone should tell you everything you need to know about the SP. On the SP-404sx, there is no play button. There is no record into the sequencer button. That's all in a sub-menu of the device. Clearly that means it's not exactly what the device was designed for, but it's capable of doing it. I mean, I could slice my strawberries with a chainsaw, but I got better tools. Okay, so we figured out roughly which one might be for us, but now this is where things get a bit tricky. It's something you either click with or you don't, and that's going to be sample management hierarchy. On the EP-133, you've got 9 projects to work with, and each one can house up to 48 samples. Sounds like a decent amount, right? Well, here's the catch. It's only 64 megabytes of RAM, and your max voice count is 12 mono or 6 stereo samples playing at once. And believe me, you'll hit that limit really fast, especially if you're using a single note to play like a piano polyphonically, which is something you straight up can't do on the SP-404. The voice limiting can actually sound kind of cool in certain situations, giving you that gritty old school vibe when things start kind of choking each other out. But in other cases, like when you want some lush pad or a texture looping smoothly in the background of your 4-bar pattern, those are the first elements that'll get axed. And switching between projects or songs on the EP-133 is a total pain if you're trying to perform live. It just kind of switches whenever it wants with no way to control the transition smoothly. And good luck guessing when exactly it'll decide to switch as well. Now, the SP-404sx doesn't really have this traditional project workflow. Instead, you've got a trusty SD card, which of course you can pop out at the bottom, which you can kind of think of as a project. In total, you're working with 10 banks of 12 samples each. So 120 samples max that all live and get streamed from the SD card. No 64 megabyte of RAM issues here. Hilariously, the voice limit is exactly the same as the EP-133. 12 mono or 6 stereo voices, but because of how I personally use the SP, which is way more focused on resampling, mangling, and processing sounds rather than making full tracks, I hardly ever maxed out those voices. In fact, I didn't even know the voice limit until I looked it up for this video. And it's 32 voices on the MK2 in case you were wondering. And when it comes to performing live with the SP-404sx, it's all right. In my setup, it used to be an effects processor at the end of chain.
And then take the drums out.
And the way I've seen tons and most producers perform with the SP-404 is that they have their entire song on one pad and it just plays back, and they'll add effects to it while it plays. Think of pressing play on a tape or iTunes or, whoa, does that even exist anymore? Anyway, of course they have other samples and stuff that they can launch at the same time, but for the most part, you press play, play effects, and when the song nears its end, you can either get creative with reverb or delay and then launch your next track. Smooth transitions really depend on your, sleight of hand proficiency, aka dexterity score. Lastly, let's quickly highlight a few advantages of both machines, starting with the EP-133. It does have a couple advantages worth highlighting. For example, these pads, or whatever you want to call them, are velocity sensitive, allowing for more expressive playing and programming. Plus, it has a MIDI out and a MIDI sequencer, so it makes it a solid choice if you want to sequence external gear alongside the EP's internal sampling and sequencing. And let's not forget the EP's built-in speaker. Sure, it's not going to blow you away with sound quality. For example, ooh. You hear what I'm saying? This is not good. Like I said, it's not going to blow you away, but it can be fun in a pinch and kind of lets you jam on the go without needing to hook up monitors or headphones. All the marketing talk. On the flip side, the SP-404sx has some clear wins over the EP-133. Resampling abilities on this thing are just insane, opening up a world of mangling and processing possibilities that you can't quite achieve on the EP, at least not yet. Hopefully they change that with the firmware upgrade. I don't know, haven't heard anything. That would be kind of awesome. But then on the SX, you combine that with the wide effects section and you got a really good sample destruction machine. Speaking of effects, the SP crushes the EP in that regard. It's just packed with way more options to sculpt your sounds. And actually, speaking of sculpting your sounds, one thing that's pretty nice about the EP over the SX is that when you're in like a sound editing menu, you actually have an envelope, which this does not have. But what's funny is you have an attack and a release. But if you look at this logo, that's actually attack, hold, some sort of other attack, and then it looks like a decay, and then maybe a sustain. I don't know. That envelope there is not attack and release. I'll just let you know that right now. Another thing on the SX is you do have a microphone input, which is, a nice touch, allowing you to sample external sources directly into the unit when you don't want to use either machine's built-in microphone. They both work, and I actually think the KO's built-in microphone that's on the unit itself is really freaking good. I mean, you can hear the samples from my NAMM video. When it comes to sheer sample storage, the SP is the obvious winner thanks to its SD card slot and sample management. And with the right card, you basically got unlimited sample space to work with, as long as you just don't, you'll just run out of pads before you run out of sample space, and I've done that. And last but not least, sample management on the SP is just more streamlined and intuitive. Being able to easily copy, paste, and delete samples directly from the pads makes life so much easier compared to the EP's more convoluted approach. And again, you could do it on the EP. It's just trickier. The samples on the SP-404 live on the pads at all times. You're just playing the sample pool. You don't need to load samples from somewhere onto something. They're just here. And this is something that is actually very unique to the entire SP lineup. TLDR, if you want a single device to easily make tracks on, sample a few things and sequence a few things, then get the EP-133. If you want a really weird and fun effects processor or fun exploration into the resampling world or a sampler to go with your other machines, then get the SP. Any of them. They're all pretty rad. The most important thing to remember, though, is to pick what tools you want to use the most often and have them be as close to the front panel as possible. For example, on the SP, you got resample and sample right here, dedicated there. But on the KO, you got record and play, you got your pads here, you got your sound selection all right here, you got some effects here, right? It's just a different workflow. Here, I can easily just go into record and start recording some stuff in. Here, I'm more focused on sampling and resampling and manipulating that sound with the effects. And if I want to go in, it's like I showed you earlier, you got to select a pattern. These are pre-made patterns, then you hit record, choose the new pattern, then hit record again. It gives you the countdown, and now you're off to the races, and then you want to change your length, and it's like, it won't let you, you see what I'm saying? It's just tricky. It's just a weird, tricky machine. Anyway, there you have it. The EP-133, the SX are two very different machines, each with their own strengths and ideal use cases. Hopefully my thoughts on the matter have helped you figure out which one might be the better fit for your specific needs and workflow. And if you got any other questions about samplers or whatever, or synthesizers or other gear, hit me up in the comments down below. I'll check them out. And until next time, my friend, you already know the drill. Share the love, share the knowledge. Knowledge is power. Peace. Tea time. Damn, my tea's cold.